All right, so BYU football kicks off spring camp next week. It's crazy to think it's coming that quickly, but hey, here it is. And BYU's cornerbacks unit, led by Jernaro Gilford, was one that lost quite a bit of talent from last year. Remember, Jacob Robinson exits the program, Mark Collins exits the program. And there was a thought at the end of the season that Mory Bamba's time in a BYU uniform was at an end. Remember, he was a late transfer to BYU from Tyler Junior College. Former BYU player Tanner Jacobson's doing a bang-up job with the Tyler Junior College program. He noticed that Mory Bamba was a great athlete, recommended him to BYU, and Mory came in as a pretty raw athlete and really kind of worked and developed as he went along and emerged on the other side as a very capable cornerback with length, athleticism, and most importantly, speed. But the hope was that BYU would get him set up to where he could continue his playing career at the professional level. Well, then that Diego Pavia situation came about, allowing junior college players like Mory Bamba to challenge for another year of eligibility. Well, Mory did just that and got the official news over the weekend that BYU will get him back for another year. And he said he's very happy to be back as a BYU Cougar. You can pencil him in as close to putting it in pen as a starter for BYU this season. What he did the tail end of last year, particularly in that Alamo Bowl, showed everything that he has worked for during his BYU career. He has been a guy who has been really honing his craft, and it really felt like he was coming into his own finally. And now the payoff could he go out there and become an all Big 12 type player during his final season of eligibility for BYU? Well, BYU hopes so, because with the other guys on BYU's cornerback depth chart, BYU needs a veteran leader like Mory Bamba to step up. Now, there are other guys in that cornerback room. I look most notably at Evan Johnson and say, okay, that's a guy who's also expected to step up for BYU this year as a part-time starter this past year, really kind of rotating time with Mory Bamba. Those who can hold down the fort, BYU could be in very good shape, but that doesn't mean that the young talent for BYU won't also be chomping at the bit to show what it's capable of. Guys like Marcus McKenzie. Marcus has been a special teams ace, been waiting and biding his time, hoping to get a chance at cornerback. Could this finally be his breakout? Could the two young freshmen that BYU featured a lot this year in Trey Alexander and Jonathan Cabea, could they finally step into their own and make one of those positions their own? The nice part is the versatility that Jay Hill has in his defense allows for a myriad of different players to play at any given time. And Jernaro Gilford has also shown as BYU cornerbacks coach that if he has guys, I'm talking plural, if he has multiple guys he feels like can play, he is not afraid to rotate them. He's not a guy who's going to be like, hey, you know what? You're my guy and you're going to be my guy and you're going to remain my guy until otherwise. He will always play as many guys as he feels like will give BYU the best opportunity to win. So right now, BYU will go into spring camp with two veterans in the case of Mory Bamba and Evan Johnson, who will be the two lead dogs to the two vets that are going to be expected to impart their own wisdom onto the young players, but also at the same time, they'll be fending off all comers, hoping to hold on to their spots on the depth chart. But the young players, that they're going to be coming for those spots, because I know that guys like Trey Alexander didn't come to BYU to be a part-time starter. They want to be the man at BYU, and that is the opportunity that is going to be staring them in the face here. So I look at this as a win-win for BYU at cornerback, because coming into spring camp, outside of Evan Johnson without Mory Bamba, major question marks about the depth and overall talent base of who would step up and really make that spot their own. Now you have a baseline with Mory Bamba of what you know you have, a proven commodity that you can build upon. And a guy like Jernaro Gilford, he is one of the best developers of talent. And there's a reason why he was recently elevated to passing game coordinator on the defense, because he knows what he's talking about. He has walked the walk. He has played at BYU. He's been a standout player at BYU. He's coached so many guys and developed them into bona fide professional prospects that quite literally anybody be crazy to pass up an opportunity to work with Coach G at this point during his career. He at some point is going to get a chance to be a full-time defensive coordinator. Heck, he may end up as a head coach someday. But Jernaro Gilford, so long as he's at BYU, you can essentially say that BYU's cornerbacks have never been in a better spot than they are right now with Jernaro Gilford coaching them up. I know we talked last week about the disappointment of Jacob Robinson not making the NFL Combine, and that is a major miss, it feels like to me, with regards to just not understanding what that guy meant to BYU, his capabilities as a player, etc. But the nice part is you look forward here for BYU at the cornerback spot. The future's extremely bright. You look at all the talent that Jernaro Gilford has assembled, and there's going to be plenty more coming for BYU in terms of the talent into this room. But you look at it right now, I think you can put together a depth chart of Mory Bamba is probably starter one at one spot. You probably put Evan Johnson the starter at other, and then essentially I would say that Jonathan Cabea steps in as potentially that slot corner starter. And then you kind of fill it in from there. Trey Alexander is a backup, probably behind Evan Johnson. Jaden Dunlap or Marcus McKenzie figure in at either corner or slot corner. I'd probably put Jaden Dunlap more in the slot corner role. But the best news is that there is talent at the corner spot. And so long as Jernaro Gilford's coaching him up, I just quite literally don't fear for BYU having an issue with regards to their cornerback unit. So it's a really, really nice thing for BYU to have that type of baseline at cornerback. Because remember, it's not that long ago that BYU didn't have that depth at corner. And there was always the question annually of, okay, who is going to be BYU's next cornerback that can really step up? And that's the fun part, is you don't have to worry about that right now. You really can look at it and say, hey, we have got the right bodies at the right spot. And BYU should be feeling very, very good about the future of this cornerback position. Could injuries thin that out very quickly? Yeah, absolutely. We always knock on wood and say, hey, we're not going to worry about that. A guy like Jordan Chris, who's coming in as a freshman this year, well, he figures he's probably going to be a guy coming in the summer if everything goes according to plan. He's going to have ground to make up. But with his height and weight combo, similar to Trey Alexander, why couldn't he end up as an option for BYU down the line? That's the fun part about this. And I just continue to kind of look at the future for BYU at cornerback and who Jernaro Gilford kind of goes about recruiting. He's very quiet about it. He's not always a guy who's going to have guys tweeting out, hey, I'm offered this guy and I've got an offer from BYU here. You see it every so often. But the way that Jernaro goes about things, he's very thorough in his evaluations. And when he finally offers guys, you can tell he's done his homework. He's done hours worth of research on these guys, and he believes that they are going to give everything they've got to BYU. And more importantly, he's going to give everything he's got to them to help them become the best they can be. And obviously the extenuating circumstance beyond that is the BYU football benefits from that high level play as they come into their own. So I think that question of BYU's depth at cornerback got a major, major boost with the return of Mory Bamba. But the nice part is spring camp should give us a full view of what to expect from that unit as a whole. And right now it feels much better than it did maybe just a week ago when it was still up in the air as to Mory Bamba's status going forward for BYU football.